All right. So we're excited to talk about CodeAcross this year. I think it's going to be the fifth CodeAcross that we've done, and we're very excited. My name is Christopher Whittaker. I'm a consultant on the Brigade team and the Code for America Brigade captain for Chicago. On the call, we have other people from the Brigade team, including Hannah Young, Monique, and myself. Joining us from Code for Boston is going to be Code for Boston Captain Harlan Weber, and then from Rally Software we have Ashley McClelland, who's going to show us a new tool that should make organizing hackathons a little bit easier. And then we're going to try to keep the part where we're talking pretty short so that we can answer questions as they come in. So CodeAcross is a weekend of civic hacking hosted by the nodes of the Code for America network around the world. CodeAcross coincides with International Data Day, and so not only are you going to be doing events with people across the country, but also with Code for all chapters across the world. CodeAcross is going to be a chance for you to work on prototypes that solve problems and help your cities, and we're excited about this year. This year is going to be a little bit different. Usually CodeAcross is in February to coincide with the end of the fellowship. This year, Open Data Day moved to March 5th, and so we're moving CodeAcross along with it. And then we've also changed the way we do our programming calendar. So the first quarter is all about organizing, getting people together, meeting stakeholders. The second quarter is all about building your prototype, user testing, making sure it works for your stakeholders and your users. The third quarter is when we're all going to try to launch our projects. And then the fourth quarter is going to be the time to kind of build out the organization of your brigade. If you go to the Brigade calendar, you can get more details. All of our programming this year is going to kind of fall into one of these four buckets, depending on where you are, so that we can try to be a little bit more cohesive in our training and our year. So the mission for CodeAcross is to build prototypes with partners. And for that, it's going to take a little bit of pre-work. You need to determine sort of what kind of project your group would like to work on. If that's something around health and human services, if it's something around economic development. And once you determine that, you should certainly reach out to stakeholders almost right away. Even if you don't have like an idea about what you want to do, meeting with stakeholders will help you get so better understand the problems your stakeholders are having. And then this will let you come up with ideas before the event so that when you actually get to CodeAcross, you can get right to prototyping. Harlan Weber at Code for Boston did a great pre-work session in the run-up to his last National Day of Hacking event. And so we wanted to ask Harlan to come on to sort of talk about what he did and how that worked. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Harlan.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the response. Okay, great. Hi guys. So like Christopher said, my name's Harlan. I'm the Brigade captain here at Code for Boston, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the way that we have done sort of community engagement with partners around some of our last two events. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so to give you a little bit of background, at Code for Boston, we sort of came to this model organically over our last three events, and we found that this way of doing pre-work, and we found that it's really delivered great results in terms of better engagement with our municipal and community partners, and actually for us, more importantly, sort of more happiness and satisfaction of our event attendees. So previously, before we started doing this pre-work, we'd mostly done sort of standard random hacks of kindness style hackathons where community members or partners would pitch an event during an open pitch session at the start of the event, teams would form, and away we go. You know, you guys are all familiar with that model of hackathon. But what we were hearing back from both our teams and our partners was that the problem statements could be a little diffuse or a little too specific. We would find that some of our partners would, and some of the project pitches would be either super big with problems like, let's solve homelessness in Boston, which is really big, or they would show up sort of with a really pre-built spec and be like, here's our 20-page spec. Can you build this for us for free this weekend? Neither of which are really why members come to these events, right? They come to not to build someone's spec for them. That's what happens, at work. They come to really flex their creativity and attack civic problems using the tools that they're really good at, which oftentimes is code and design and policy and all those things. So we're trying to think of a way that we could make both sides happier. So we developed this model of doing pre-work. And what you're going to be after in this is really a set of engaged partners with whom you will develop a right-sized challenge for your participants to work on. We started this at CodeAcross last year, really refined it in National Day 2015, and we also used it very effectively in our recent Hack Winter App Challenge. And it's gotten us really good events so far. Can you go to the next slide? So we started with a couple of basic premises, which is more engagement from partners, correctly sized and scoped projects. And a lot of that means doing this work before the event and also setting a lot of expectations with your partners. I'll get into more of that in a minute, but we tell our partners when they're going to engage with us for this sort of pre-work that we expect them to take part in the challenge statement generation process, which I'm going to walk you through, to pitch their event. I'm getting there we go. To pitch their project at the day of the challenge, and to spend at least the first part of the day with project teams to serve as a subject matter expert and provide guidance, as well as to be there for the demos at the end. It's a big investment on the part of the partners. The best ones tend to stay the whole time. Some very good ones sometimes have to leave. I think all of the things I'm about to tell you are about you should remain flexible because, everybody who we're working with, they have lives and we're asking them to come in on the weekend and all of these things. So that being said, to start the process, this sounds very basic and sort of dumb, but pick the people who you want to work with, who are either address a local or a CFA focus area, and send them a formal email invitation to take part in this. Keep it short, keep it sweet. Don't go into everything that you're trying to do. This is a hook. But do explain who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and sort of a little bit about why you think this event would be good for your partner to participate in. People will ignore you. For National Day last year, we contacted 30 local groups and got maybe 10 responses. And of those 10 responses, only about 6 people actually were able to participate. So don't worry about that. Don't worry that people are ignoring you. It happens all the time. Everyone is super busy. It's fine. You should be doing this at a minimum. All of the things, I'm going to have timelines at the bottom of all of these. They're all minimum requirements. So the minimum time you can start doing this, in our experience in Boston anyway, is about 4 weeks before the event. Can you hit the next slide? So once you've gotten your participants back and you've kind of hooked them in as problem owners, you're going to send them another email to set expectations like I just mentioned. So to have problem owners come to an initial workshop, to pitch, to be present at demos, things like that. We ask our problem owners to then spend some time with their organizations gathering information about their most critical issues. They're going on, not that they want to do for the event, but the things they're trying to accomplish in their organizations. We want them to come to the next step, which is a workshop with kind of some ammo to talk about with everybody else. Can you hit the next slide? So this is the fun part. The workshop is the fun part. This is where most of the stuff happens. So this workshop is intended to bring all of your partners together to facilitate the generation of problem statements. This can be done at Hack Night or at a separate event. We've done both. Sometimes if people can't make it to either the hack night or the event, we'll do a separate session with them later. If you're going to get everybody together in a room, you should definitely have several core team members come and help. And this should definitely be done at an absolute minimum, like totally absolute minimum of 2 weeks before the event. So in the workshop, we're going to tell our partners what we're all about, explain to them in more detail about what they can expect out of the hackathon. And the way that we approach hackathons is we feel like hackathons are really good at building energy and starting projects, and they're not really good at delivering, like finalized code, because all the demos are always held together with like duct tape and string. But we always make a point to tell our partners that that's why we do hack nights every week, because things that fall out of these hackathons keep getting worked on at Code for Boston. Can you go to the next slide? So the way to run this workshop, very, very loosely, is that one. So the way to run this workshop, very loosely, is we start off with introductions both to the individuals in the room and their organizations. So we go around the room, have people talk a little bit about who they are and who they represent. It's basic introduction stuff, but it's sort of key because you should be listening for commonalities in the mission and the approach of organizations. This will be important a little bit later. After introductions are done, we ask folks to spend 5 minutes writing down sort of problem statements, the ones that they've talked about in the previous step from their organization. So they make a list of all of their the problems that their organizations are looking to solve. And we use the structure of how might we. So like an example might be from our last national day is, how might we help youth in Codman Square, which is a neighborhood in Boston, to find jobs that they can get to without a car? And this how might we statement provides sort of the what you're after. So you're after a challenge statement that looks like that. After everybody writes down their things, we go around the room again and have them read out some of their the challenge statements that they're looking to solve with their organizations. And this is sort of a collaborative session. So as they're talking, you're writing things down on the whiteboard, and you're probing on each of these problem statements. Not just you, but everybody in the room. This is a collaborative session. So people from other organizations get to critique and talk about the problems that are going on in partner organizations, and hopefully we can find some commonalities and get to some problems we should work on at the event together. And also we've found this to be totally awesome, not just for generating things at the event, but also for forming relationships that exist outside the context of the event. So we've had partners come to this session and then spin off entirely different engagements with each other afterwards because they met at this session. So once you've got a good set of problems on the whiteboard that everybody sort of likes, you can start scoping them down to something that can have a meaningful output. Nope, go back. So you start scoping them down to something that can reasonably be done by volunteers working in a weekend event. And for me, this is the most critical part. Like I said, the problems are sometimes really, really big or really, really small. And this is your chance to help your partners come to a challenge statement that invites multiple solutions, can be done in the weekend, and isn't too big or too small, using that how might we construction. So you'll work with them to develop a challenge statement. Problem owners leave the workshop with their challenge statement, and then they have more homeworks, and this is the next slide. So problem owners take the challenge statement back to their organization. Ideally, they're socializing it among their peers, refining the language if necessary, but also gathering any data or supporting documentation that'll help the team that's going to pick up this challenge at the event. This has taken a couple of different ways in the way that we've seen it. We had the city of Cambridge work on a project around homelessness, and they brought a CSV of all of the homelessness resources that they had in the city. For Youth Hub, which is a youth employment organization, they brought some of their kids to be sort of like live research participants for the team. So this can take a couple of different forms. Have them send refined language and data back to you before the event, at a minimum of 1 week before the event. Next, please. Before you get to the event, you should preload that documentation. I mean, this is what we've found to be a good use model because it helps to cut down on confusion. We preload all that documentation, the problem statement, a partner contact, any documentation, into whatever kind of method you're using to run your hackathon beforehand. So we use Hackpad, and so we take all of that and put it into a Hackpad template, and then after our project owners pitch, we tell teams to go into Hackpad and pick up that Hackpad and be right there with it. So we also set up a Slack channel in our public Slack for each team to work in. And that also allows for teams that are working on different problem statements that are working on different projects attacking the same problem statement, to kind of collaborate, share information, things like that. Next, please. So this is what our Hackpad looked like. It's called Team Sea Urchin because at the same time as we did our National Day this year, there also the fish hackathon was happening over at the aquarium as well. So we were having some solidarity with them. So this is where you can list all the people, their contact information, say what kind of project it is, the challenge statement, what it's trying to address, and this is where the links to data go as well. And so, yeah, after the project, the problem owner pitches, you have them go and they sit with the team, they provide context, stay for demos afterwards. And for us anyway, we've had several of these projects go on to be worked on as mainline Code for Boston projects. And some of them have even been brought into their city partners to be continued working on as sort of mainline projects in the city of Cambridge with Youth Hub and a couple of other organizations. So I've gone on, I think, probably about 5 minutes too long, so I'm going to stop here. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. This is how we do it in Boston. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And sorry about the mix-up with the slides.
Oh, right. Sorry, one last thing. This is really long, so I'm not going to read it out here. But if you want to go take a look at this statement that came from one of our participants in this process, this is what came out of the executive director of the Youth Hub nonprofit that I mentioned before, after going through this process with us. Okay, I'm done now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And then once we get through everything, we'll get to answering questions. So for the next part of it is how to run a civic hackathon. We've put out a couple of resources. If you take a look at the playbook, there's a section on hack nights and days of actions that has a number of different resources that you can do to kind of get to running a hackathon. But it's sort of been our experience that running a hackathon is a lot of work. There's a lot of tasks and a lot of details. And if you're trying to sort of work as a team to get all these things done, it can be kind of a bit of a pain to organize. And so we've actually worked with Rally Software to use their tool called Hackshop to make the process a little easier. If you've never heard of Waffle.io, this is what this looks like. And it has 4 different columns, sort of a backlog, things that are ready to be done, things that are in process, and then things that are done. And you can move the different cards around to indicate sort of what things are done. For the Brigade team, we use Waffle.io to do a lot of just our day-to-day tasks. But we wanted to bring in Ashley McClelland from Rally Software to demo Hackshop and to sort of show us how it works. We'll make sure you're not muted.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, great. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on just a moment. Is everybody able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So Waffle is a simple project management tool that lives on top of GitHub and uses basically your issues and your pull requests as cards on a board. So all you really need to do to use Waffle and to use Hackshop is to sign up for GitHub, and it's free. Many of you probably already have GitHub accounts. And then once you have a GitHub account, you can go to hackshop.waffle.io. We started off using Hackshop for attendees of hackathons, where people could run hackathons in a way that allowed them to use lean startup principles as well. So that's where the name Hackshop comes from. It's part hackathon, part workshop. Where Christopher came in was he had written an awesome blog post about how to run a civic hackathon. And we thought, wow, this would be great if we had this same sort of template for what you should do when you're at a hackathon, but for organizers leading up into a hackathon. So we added a template for organizing hackathons as well with Christopher's help. So if you click on I'm an organizer, you'll see an example of what the board's going to look like. And from there, you can go down and log in or sign up for Waffle if you haven't already. And then you just need to authorize public or private repositories. From there, you just need to sign into GitHub. And once you're there, you'll generate a project, which will look like this. I didn't do the project generation because I already have it created, but at this point now you're logged in to the board, and you have a set of things that you can do to get ready for the hackathon. Hold on just a moment while this loads. So for instance, you have all of your cards that you need to do 2 months before in your ready column. So if you open up one of the cards on here, which the first thing you should do is focus on the problem, as Harlan was talking about, and then you have a brief of basically what does that mean and a checklist of things that you should do prior to starting out with planning your event. And there are basically, Christopher's put together all of this content that basically walks you through all of the things that you would need to do leading up into the event. When you're ready to pull something, like say I was going to focus on the problem sets and I wanted to pull this in progress, I can then assign myself or assign somebody else. And that basically means that that person has ownership of that card. We did something very similar with this to this in North Carolina when I helped organize a city camp. And prior to when I got involved in organizing the city camp in North Carolina, everything was in Google Docs. And so everything was buried in 3 levels deep of Google Docs. So when I joined, I said, hey guys, could we use Waffle and see how that works? And so we actually did, and everybody loved it. It was a great success. The event's over now, so it probably won't have much on it until this next summer when we do the next one. But we basically every week would meet and go over what we did. So when Christopher mentioned doing this for doing a board like this, a pre-generated template, sounded great because that's basically what we did with City Camp, but organically. So if you did need to add additional cards to the structure that you already have when you're working with your team to plan your CodeAcross event, you can just go ahead and add new issues. So there might be something specific that you would need to add. Contact venue. And so you add the issue and it'll just show up on your board as well. And then from there, you'll see that there are these labels on here that we've pre-generated for you based on suggestions of the timeframes that you should be doing those things in. And you can actually add those on your own as well from inside the modal. So you can go ahead and say 2 hours before I need to contact the venue. Whatever you need to do, and then pull it into ready or in progress. And then once things are complete, then you can move them into done. So that's a little bit about the organizer side of things. There's also a playbook for actually running the event as a hack shop, so as a hackathon that has lean startup principles alongside it. That is all contained in the hack shop playbook. And when you go to hackshop.waffle.io, there is also, There is also that attendee link that you can click on, and you can get a board that is specific to an actual hackathon. So things like defining your problem that you're going to be solving, talking to people that are in your problem space, all the way through getting to the build phase and pitching. So that is another piece that if anybody is interested in running their CodeAcross event as a hack shop, I would be happy to talk with you more about that, show you around the playbook, and get you up and running with that. But the organizer piece is super simple, and I think that a lot of you will probably get value out of this. If you have questions, my email is ashley@waffle.io, ASHLEY, and I am happy to talk with you guys about either the organizer side of Hackshop or the attendee side. And thank you for considering using it.
Can we include that address and instructions on how to do all this in any follow-up email to this meeting?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. So with that, we'll go into the Q&A part. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we will answer it. We have about 30 minutes left in the call. So we have plenty of time for questions and answers. And with that, does anybody have any questions?